everyone, welcome to Inside Gaming. I'm Alana, this is Lawrence, and today we are previewing the latest Obsidian game that's not out yet, upcoming Obsidian game, which is The Outer Worlds. This is a preview, see? We put a little P there and everything.
Professional graphics here, everything you come to expect from Inside Gaming.
So I wanted to summarize this from the top because I feel like this game is very easy to just explain and have anyone who has played any other game like this understand. Basically, it's an Obsidian game. It is New Vegas in space, almost 100%. There are tons of dialogue options, there are tons of RPG mechanics, there are multiple ways to approach quests, there are companions. It's an Obsidian game.
Yeah, I think it's way too early to draw conclusions. Obviously it's a preview, that's kind of what it is, but to me, this game kind of represents a sort of return to form for what action RPGs have been sliding away from. It tends to skew much more heavily towards stat management, a character build, things that matter, whereas in a game like Borderlands, it's like it's skills, but that's about it. Stats don't really matter too much. And dialogue, lots of dialogue, like you can talk your way through encounters, you don't have to fight all the time. You have companions that have their own dialogue trees and personalities and stuff like that, so hopefully this is more of a return to, I guess, I haven't really had a whole lot of RPGs like this aside from maybe The Witcher 3. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited. Yeah. Cautiously optimistic is I guess what I'd say.
Yeah, those RPG mechanics are deep, but I did want to talk about gameplay first.
Sure.
Again, controls like New Vegas. I don't really know how to describe how exploring the world feels, but a lot of it is in first person, and you have companions, and you're looking around, and everything is very, very, very colorful. The place where we spent most of our time was a lot of like green and orange and purple. There's pollen going everywhere, so it's just very vivid, which I kind of didn't expect, but it's space. Why not? You can pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah, this is a very wacky vision of a sort of dystopian future. You're kind of in this capitalist wasteland of the near future where private companies own everything. So there's kind of a sort of a RoboCop-y sense of humor about the whole thing. Everything is about privatization, corporations, and greed and profit. But yes, I think kind of in tandem with that, it is a very colorful universe. There's like rings across the sky and a star field and like northern lights flashing and stuff like that. So it's a very visually appealing world. A lot of like bizarrely like mercantile-esque 1800s imagery too, in the storefronts and the shops and everything like that. It's supposed to look like the frontier, is I think what they're getting to, but also rigidly capitalistic. So I think even there was even like a corporate loophole that allowed one corporation to seize control of this entire planet that was terraformed wrong. So it's like filled with all these hideous giant creatures and nobody wants it except another corporation just slipped in under the radar and kind of scooped the whole thing. So there's a lot of funny backstory, a lot of like quirky moments that kind of tie to how stupidly dystopian this universe is. So yeah, it's kind of that Borderlands vibe of it being very wild and vibrant and goofy, but not quite so puerile, not so 14-year-old
I still found it very funny. I also found the creatures, because there are tons of just little critters that populate the world, very cool. Like a lot of them look awesome. They don't look as gross as they look in Fallout. They're really colorful. They have personality even in just the way they're designed, and when they were ever loading screens and seeing the concept art for those, I was like, I like these dudes. They're very cool looking weird aliens and I'm a big fan of them.
Yeah.
And of course some of them attack you, some of them do not. And I did want to talk about combat. I found it really fast.
Yes, it is looter shooter speed, at least on normal difficulty, which is not what I was expecting. But I actually feel like it's probably a good play based on what people are expecting now from an action RPG.
True.
Yeah, you can run, you jump, you can shoot guys, blah, blah, blah. If you're playing on normal, I didn't have much of a problem just murdering everybody just by running up to them and clicking them until they died.
Yeah, I think we were probably, because we were playing save files, we were probably pretty well spec'd as well.
Probably.
But it was actually pretty easy. The combat was easy, but I did
find new guns and stuff like that. It's the whole thing.
I did find that enemies moved around a lot. They were really mobile, so sometimes you'd lose them because they were actually taking cover, and I liked that because it meant while I was moving quickly, the enemy was also moving quickly, so I didn't feel like, I feel like even a little bit in Rage 2, some of them would just kind of stand behind a box, but I could jump around like a maniac, and I think it's more fun when everyone's jumping around like a maniac. It just sort of suits the world more, so I was impressed by that.
Yeah, I agree.
We also had a bunch of different weapons. Those were already in our inventories for that save file. Tons of them look cool and creative. I think I had a sword at one point. That was pretty sick.
Yeah, I found a flame scythe.
Cool.
So like, yeah, one of the things I do like is maybe unlike Borderlands 2 or something like that, where things are in the world because there are quests attached to them. So if there's a cave full of enemies, odds are you'll get a quest to go in there and kill 5 of them. I did find a lot of sort of emergent storylines, because we got dropped into this open play area. You could just go into this town and kind of pick up the storyline they wanted. I kind of went the opposite direction and just started exploring.
I did that too.
Yeah, okay, great. But yeah, I like would pick up on these like the little narratives. I'd go into a cave, there'd be a guy in there, he'd be injured, be like, oh, these bandits got me, their camp is just over there. It wouldn't really drop a glowing diamond, but if I went over there and I did find the camp, I found that they took over this research station. And then in the research station is this like top secret weapons project. Okay, so I poke around there, I find some data logs, I get a code, I unlock it, and I get this really cool gun that when I shoot it, it makes everyone levitate in the air.
Cool.
So yeah, there's like, I feel like, and I hope this extends to the full game. Again, preview hard to say, but I really hope that there are these sort of emergent storylines baked into the world that if you're paying attention and reading and listening to what people tell you, they'll clue you into these cool things that you can find. Then you're like, oh, I got a flame sight. This one's just for me because I actually put the time in to explore it. So into that.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of the like plot-based stuff a little bit further later, but I did find a lot of the narrative stuff was how much I wanted to pay attention to whoever was talking to me, which I like because you can bite it off if you want or not if you don't want to. So that's cool. Weapons have good sound design. That really stood out to me. I hope that cool flame sight sounded like it should.
It was fun. And in a very Fallout sort of way, if you like really whack somebody with it, they just turn into a pile of cinders on the ground.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of playing into the goofy sense of nature about the game too, is like life is fairly meaningless in this universe. So people get eviscerated and murdered and it's just numbers on a ledger to some corporate accountant somewhere.
Matter.
So yeah, it's fun stuff.
There's one important new mechanic which is called tactical time dilation. They call it TTD in-game. It basically slows the world down for a limited time. It drains slower if you move slower. It's basically their version of VATS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they couldn't call it VATS.
Yeah.
But
it's
yeah.
It's a little different to VATS. It's not zooming in on one enemy and having them slow down. You can still choose who you're going to shoot, and it doesn't specify which body part or whatever. But I used it pretty much as soon as my bar was full almost every time. I was a VATS player though also, so.
Yeah, and there is some crossover there. Some of that old like Fallout DNA is still there, where under tactical time dilation, you can target somebody's legs or eyes. It's not like a menu won't point up. It's more like you freeze time and then you use your crosshair to shoot at the thing you want to shoot at. If you hit him in the eyes, it'll blind him. If you hit him in the legs, it'll cripple them. If you hit him in the arms, they'll drop their weapon, that kind of thing. So I really appreciate that there's like all of those mechanics are still there, which is kind of neat. It's almost paying homage to their history as a developer a little bit.
Yeah.
And hopefully it plays into the tactics of it. I used my like anti-gravity gun and boom, send 3 people into the air, slow down time, swap guns, and then just like start headshotting them while they were floating there uselessly. Pretty cool stuff, and I hope that does extend out to higher difficulties and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And you can upgrade your tactical time dilation to like last longer or basically make your cooldown time shorter. So I feel like if you want to build towards that, you absolutely can, and that's probably what I will do. I don't think our builds were well equipped for it, which is funny. But
yeah, we got generalist builds to kind of let us experience a lot of the systems, nothing that was too specific.
Yeah, so to jump into mechanics, I kind of don't even know how to explain them because there are a lot of them.
There's a lot of stats.
Oh boy.
And that's got me giddy.
Thankfully, we have footage of the menus, so we can show it to you. But basically, for most of your stats, everything starts off with categories called mind, personality, and temperament for you to level up, and they have individual categories inside them. Like mind would include intelligence. There's a melee skill, which I believe was in that. No, that's in a separate menu entirely.
Yeah,
basically,
stats,
there's a lot of
skills,
stuff going on.
Then perks.
Yeah.
It is very similar to old Fallout, and theoretically, a lot of these things matter. I mean, you dump skill points into small guns, and then you could shoot pistols good, that makes sense. But there are skill checks and dialogue trees and stuff like that.
A lot of them too, actually.
Yeah.
I think my first dialogue interaction needed an engineering skill. Obviously there are opportunities to lie all the time or tell the truth or convince people, but yeah, lots of skills that I didn't expect to show up in dialogue showed up all the time, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I hope, and theoretically that gives every player their unique path that's custom tailored to their character build, which is something I've been starving for. Not to go on too much of a tangent, but something like Fallout 4. You can play that game the same no matter how you roll your character. It's really just whatever gun is floating in front of you. That's not really what Fallout used to be, and that you had to change the way you played based on the character you rolled. And I'm kind of hoping this game has flavors of that, where if you have high charisma, then you have to lean on your party, which you can have followers, lean on their skill sets more. If you are like a tech character, then maybe you have to find quests where it just involves fixing stuff, and then you can just click through and level up. I'm hoping, these are all forward-looking statements. We haven't played the full game yet, obviously, but I keep saying that, and I gotta stop. People know this is
It's a preview.
Yeah.
I mean, it definitely seems that way based on the amount of skills there are. I feel like it'd be very difficult to specialize in too many things. And one thing that they've done is, say you put points into your melee skill. Once you put 50 points into melee, you can then start putting points into the sub skills individually, like one-handed weapons, for example. So basically you just specialize and then you specialize again and then you specialize again, and it just keeps going, which I feel like I'm gonna get very, very into very quickly.
Yeah, it makes it easier to get a baseline, and I think it takes away some of the anxiety about spending skill points. It's like you can get a lot of skills up to a functional level pretty quickly, but then if you want to really hyper-tailor your character, that happens later in the game once you've had some time and you know how you want to play. Yep. So it's really smart. For me, the jury's still out on how consequential those decisions will end up being. I just hope they're very consequential, because that's what I'm all about.
Especially if we've got the 3 separate categories that you can level up, which is, as we said, skills, stats, and then you've got perks as well. You get a new perk every 2 levels, and then 5 perks unlocks the next tier of perks. And a lot of those looked awesome. We had a lot of them blocked from us, but a lot of stuff that you would have seen in Fallout, like there was one that seemed not too dissimilar to like, I don't remember what they're called. It's like Man-Eater, where you just do more damage to a man type stuff. So there's some I imagine that they are paying respect to previous games with some of those perks, but there were some that just seemed crazy.
I hope they just have that stranger show up and shoot people again.
I loved him, Mysterious Stranger.
Yeah.
He was I got so, every time I'd be like, yeah, you got it.
You got him.
He was the best. There are also workbenches for crafting. I didn't screw around with this too much.
Just a little bit, yeah. It's crazy, because you can, guns degrade, you can repair them, you can add modifications, you can upgrade them. Whole lot of stuff there too. Basically, I think long story short here is there are menus and stats for everything, which if that's your flavor, this is hopefully the game that will satisfy a lot of what you've been looking for.
Yeah, if you're not into that, I don't know that you could passively coast your way through it. I feel like you're probably gonna need to be at least a little bit invested in how your character is built, because there is a lot of it, and you get pop-ups pretty regularly for the new thing you've got, and it's all marketed to you in this really interesting way. I think for skills it was like, this is not gonna be correct, but like, Annie's tutorial on getting skills or whatever, and it's like a Bioshocky style pop-up that just tells you some woman is teaching you how to basically go through skills. Again, pretty similar to the way Fallout does it with Vault-Tec, but it's just all very cute, and well, cute's maybe not the right word, but it's all very well detailed and crafted, and I was super into it.
Yeah, it seems creatively unified.
Yeah.
In its tone and its art assets and everything like that, which theoretically, given how big the game is supposed to be, multiple planets, like open quest system, kill any NPC you want at any time kind of thing, like the game is supposed to react to how sociopathic you want to be.
So to jump forward to the plot and the characters, we are under embargo for the start of the game. We're not allowed to tell you about what happened to your protagonist or why you are where you are. They want everyone to experience that fresh, which I think is cool. But the other characters you encounter are super interesting. One weird thing that stood out to me was that everyone is attractive. Like virtually every character I encountered was attractive, which I would not have expected.
That's interesting, yeah, because it is kind of a gross world.
Yeah,
there are weird mutant beasts everywhere, but
I feel like whatever it is about their engine, anytime you tried to make a human, even if you tried not to make them attractive, it was probably like, well, they're hot again, shit.
Dang it.
Which is fine.
Yeah, just got a little dirt on his face, but that just makes me love him more.
Pretty much, yeah. But there are factions just like New Vegas, which is basically the different corporations. And everyone I encountered who was part of one of those was extremely loyal to it, like a cult. I found one that basically literally was a cult with a mother and a father and all that stuff. So yeah, there are a lot of allegiances for you to be pulled into, and people are going to fight over you. And especially being fresh in this world, it was very hard for me to piece together who was evil and who wasn't, like what their motivations were as corporations. And I think that's going to interest me a lot. And that you encounter so many of them and they so boldly tell you so quickly who they represent that I'm like, well, that seems fine, but I have no idea what the backlog of this thing is. So there's a lot to pursue there when it comes to these factions or cults or corporations, I suppose.
Yeah, it's supposed to make decision making a little more interesting than good and bad. Like that old Fallout 4 Photoshop of smiley face, sad face. They're kind of going back a little bit to, if this is a capitalist dystopia, there isn't a right or wrong, there's only profit. So if you're looking for like a pure elite, pure faction to hitch your allegiance to, maybe there's a company that isn't as evil as the other ones. But I think it's mostly, hopefully, going to be a factor of who can help you accomplish your goal, and that's it. Because yeah, each company has its own reputation bar, and if you go around murdering them, your reputation's going to go down. If you do quests for them, it's going to go up. But a lot of those things are diametrically opposed. So one corporation is going to ask you to mess with another one. you got to make the judgment about whether it's worth the trade-off or the benefit.
Yeah, the two quests that I did that were specifically corporation versus corporation, both of them required me either hurting or killing or getting rid of someone from one of those corporations. So I was making a hard stance, and then I was like killing their leader, or one of them I could get locked in a room, who I guess would just starve to death. So there were decisions there that I didn't feel like I was equipped to make, being that it was not my save file. But I feel like I'm gonna get very into that. I'm gonna like form allegiances and pick who I want. But you're right, it probably will be about profit in the end, which is a big theme for this game for sure.
I like games that, I feel like it's such a cop-out to give you, to always have a hidden option that's the best outcome for everyone, because most players want that. I feel like the Fallout 3 thing of like, no, you can save your dad. I'm like, come on, dude. At least like put a stake in the ground about something. So I appreciate that this game seems like it will force you to make decisions. Meaningful, qualitative decisions.
People are gonna die.
I hope so.
You do also have two companions. Obsidian seemed really excited about these. That's the vibe that I got. They were like, did you like the companions? How were they? So we had Nyoka and Pavati, and they basically talk to you with a ton of personality, sometimes even sort of stealing the camera when you're talking to an NPC in a dialogue tree to comment on something the NPC is saying. So I don't know how much we get to shape those personalities, but I imagine they just kind of appear in our party, or we collect them to be in our party, and they have pre-established personalities. And I imagine the two companions can have conflicting personalities, and they can argue with each other, and I don't know how that's gonna play out, but they were very, very well fleshed out. And they also talk to one another about their lives while you're just walking around the world, so you can find out a ton about them. You don't have to listen, obviously, but the two companions that we had at one point for me were talking about their previous relationships, and they're both very different characters, so I was like, this is interesting, why not? Why not listen to this?
Yeah, it adds a lot of flavor. It reminds me of KOTOR, of all things. NPC members would do that back in that game, and it was great. What a great way to kind of reveal more about a character's backstory in a pretty organic way. Yeah. Just like people are chatting, you're running from point A to point B, it's gonna take 5 minutes. Might as well have some dialogue peppered in there. Yeah, I did appreciate the little side mentions of like your party members will like whisper in your ear to kind of guide you and advise you. Hopefully that's also colored by their motivations and allegiances, so you kind of have to weigh all these things.
I want it to be like Divinity Original Sin.
Oh man.
Where if I annoy a party member, they're like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Because I like those stakes, but I didn't see any evidence that it would be like that, but it's totally possible.
Yeah, I think we were playing fairly early game, so I don't think there was anything too mission critical. Also, it seems like the two party members we had are fairly roguish. They didn't seem too thoroughly locked down to any sort of mindset or philosophy. So,
yeah.
But yeah, they were cool characters. I didn't resent their inclusion at all.
Nope.
And also, they're pretty functional in combat too. There are a lot of skills, leadership, and what have you that will enhance the abilities of your squad mates, and then you can give them orders and tell them to move. So. Maybe it's possible to do a playthrough where you do no combat at all. You're
That'd
just
be cool.
a talkie person, and then you send in your meatheads to go fight for you. And that would probably involve a lot of tactical time dilation, sending them orders at specific times. Maybe even shades of like Mass Effect 1 in there would be kind of neat. So yeah, it's all looking really, really impressive.
Yeah, obviously we have a lot of speculation, but I feel like it's worth pointing out that it's excited speculation. This is stuff that was like, there's so much potential that I saw in the amount of time that I played this that even if half of it is correct, I'm super in, and honestly, based on the RPG mechanics alone, I can't wait to play it.
Yeah, I'm jazzed just because I saw the difficulty selection, and the harder difficulty basically made it sound like maybe some of the older school Fallouts, which is you have to sleep, you have to eat, you have to drink water.
Like Wasteland.
Yeah, basically, in Wasteland, way back in the day. And then yeah, your companions have permadeath. All that stuff I really, really like, because I like every game decision being meaningful. In the combat that we had, you could pretty much just run around like an idiot and kill everybody. That's fun, don't get me wrong. But I kind of like having to approach a fight and even asking myself, is it worth it to even try this? Because I might die.
Yeah.
Or one of my favorite companions might die, and I'll just have to live with that. So sweating those decisions are the things that I really like about these games, especially when they're theoretically this mechanically complete with the RPG systems and stuff. So I'm looking forward to rage quitting a bunch of very hard runs in this game.
Absolutely. I guess in conclusion, it's pretty. The combat is fun. There's a lot of RPG stuff, and the characters are interesting. We feel pretty positively about it. I actually don't have anything negative to say.
Yeah, me neither. I was impressed, specifically with the look of the game.
They show you the best stuff they have for previews. We know that previews are always positive because of that, but I walked away just wanting more. So they did their job.
Yes, they did.
Well, if you want to play the game yourself, it is coming out on October 25th. We will definitely be playing it, and of course, we'll probably review it at that point in time as well. So stay tuned to Inside Game.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Inside Gaming Reviews. We're reviewing Wolfenstein Youngblood today. I'm joined by Alana and Caden and Nick over in Austin. This is an interesting game. Interesting.